Hello, I am Dr. Rakosawa McFadgen, the Director of the Office of Interpersonal Violence Prevention. And what we're going to do for a few moments together is go through what interpersonal violence looks like, how to recognize it, and then also the resources that are available to you as students of Howard University. So this is just Howard University's commitment to creating a community where everyone, faculty, staff, students, undergraduate students, graduate students, anyone on our campus that is engaged in a learning opportunity should be able to do so free of all forms of harassment, exploitation, or intimidation. And so every member of the Howard University community needs to definitely be aware that we have a Title IX policy, we have a student code of conduct and community standard policy, and those policies guide our behavior so that we are respectful and honor each other and honor our diverse experiences and where we come from. What you're going to get from this training today, I hope to increase your knowledge around domestic dating violence, stalking, and sexual assault. I also hope to increase your understanding of your responsibility for preventing sexual assault, domestic dating violence, and stalking on our campus. And of course, I definitely hope you will leave this training with information related to getting resources on campus and off campus too. Okay, so we're just going to go right through each and every incident of violence that can happen on a college campus, and dating and domestic violence is one. Dating and domestic violence is a pattern of controlling behaviors used by one partner to control the other. It is a situation where the pattern starts in a very subtle way. You're not going to notice it right away. There will be controlling signs of things like checking your text messages, forcing you or strongly encouraging you to put your location on so they know where you are. They will engage in this kind of quid pro quo in your relationship, like if you buy me this purse, then I'll give you this. Or if you stay with me, then I'll pay for you to go to school, those kind of things. And so you should be able to make decisions in your relationships without any fear or without any expectation of doing something for what you want in that relationship. You guys are graduate students, so the next few bullets don't necessarily apply to you, but just so you know, that on a college campus, we have mostly, of course, 16 to 24 students who are 16 to 24 years of age. And this is the greatest risk, not just at Howard University, but in our country and in general, honestly, statistically speaking. Most domestic and dating violence and stalking and sexual assault incidents happen to individuals who are 16 to 24 years of age. You'll see here 3 out of 10 women experience some form of violence in a relationship or in general, and 1 out of 10 men will experience it. Dating and domestic violence. Here is what domestic and dating violence looks like. Here are the behaviors that it encompasses. So if you see these things happening in your relationship, or you see it happening in a relationship of one of your colleagues or your peers, this is what it's going to look like. So sexual violence, that's making someone do something that they don't want to do sexually. So of course, if I have been sexually assaulted, you're not going to be able to tell that by looking at me. But I will communicate it to you. If I'm in a relationship and I say to you, you know, you guys, I can't participate in a study group on Tuesday because my boyfriend doesn't let me go out. And it's just really frustrating, you know, because he set a schedule, you know, for when we have sex, and I don't really like it, but, you know, it is what it is. I love him. I'm in a committed relationship and we doing what we do. So I just said to you a lot of things. When somebody says the partner doesn't allow them to do X, Y, Z, go to study groups and that kind of thing, that's a form of dating and domestic violence, okay? When they are being forced to engage in a sexual act on a particular day, on a particular schedule, that's a form of sexual assault, sexual violence. Now you might say, hey, I know people who marry people who have sex every other Friday. That's a schedule that they have decided together. But if one person is setting the schedule and the other person just has to comply with it, that's not okay, even in a marriage. Emotional, verbal, or psychological abuse. That's like when someone is controlling you, they put you down, they make you feel bad about the choices that you make, they make you feel insecure about what you wear, the decisions you make academically, or they often are very harmful and threatening to you, like threaten to out your experiences. If you're a member of the LGBTQ community and other people don't know, your partner says, well, if you don't sleep with me, if you don't do this, then I'm going to tell everybody else that you're gay or that you're queer. Economic abuse is when someone makes you do something with your money that you don't want to do, or they prevent you from using money in the way that you want. What we often see amongst graduate students is we have situation where, you guys are adults, so you've been through undergrad and you're living off campus and you're living in an unhealthy relationship, but the challenge is you feel like you can't leave that relationship because staying there is helping you get through school, because you don't have to pay for housing, you don't have to pay for an apartment on your own. So staying in a relationship is cost effective to you. But what I want to say to you now, and I will repeat it again at the end, Howard University, we have resources to support you so that you're living in a safe environment, so you're living in a control-free environment. So economic reasons is an understandable reason to stay in an abusive relationship, but I want to let you know that we are here and we provide support to students and help students get out of leases, help students find alternative housing so that you don't have to stay in those circumstances, okay? So you're not alone, and that's not your only option. Spiritual abuse is when someone won't allow you to engage in a worship service or wear something that represents your faith. Or they use the religion to put you in a controlling environment. So sometimes we will see things, particularly of folks who are of the Christian faith. I'll hear a partner say, well, Dr. McFadden, I'm in a relationship and we're going to be married. We've been living together for a long time. And I'm just learning how to be the submissive the submissive partner, submissive wife in this relationship, because that's what the Bible says I should do. I always like to encourage students to read the Bible in its entirety or read it fully, because that scripture also says that your partner will honor you as Jesus Christ does the church. So if your partner is not honoring you, then you are only fulfilling a portion of that scripture. You guys have to work together to fulfill the scripture in its entirety. He or she should be honoring you, and you should be honoring them. Sexual assault. Sexual assault includes rape or attempted rape or any unwanted sexual contact or threat. So this is not just a incident of penetration, of intercourse. It can be sexual contact like touching, rubbing, and someone has not given you consent to do so, or making threats to hurt or harm someone, or divulge of comments or photos or any kind of personal information that person may have given you that's sexual, and you releasing that information or you threatening to do so, that is considered sexual harassment or attempted rape. Sexual assaults are definitely most likely to take place with someone that you know. It is someone in the group me, someone in your class, someone that lives in your apartment building, someone that you met during orientation. It is definitely someone that you know, and here is why. Sexual assault, just like domestic violence, is rooted in power and control. The person is using the sexual violence to control or have power over the other person. Well, you cannot have more power over someone unless there's been a relationship. So the stranger that's jumping from behind the bushes, they are automatically taking that power because you don't see them coming, and then, okay, then yes, a sexual assault can occur. But very often, more often than not, the relationship, the context provides what I call like a breeding ground to create that imbalance in structure and power and control that allows someone to engage in a sexual act, and then the victim finds themselves in a situation where, okay, wait, I didn't want to have sex. I was forced to do that. And I can't believe that the person that I've been in relationship with, or the person that I've been hanging out with, is someone who violated me in that way. Because a lot of times people don't recognize it right after the incident, because there is a context of a relationship where the person has taken advantage of it and taken advantage of the control in the relationship. 1 in 5 women will experience a sexual assault during her college experience. That is not just a statistic for Howard University. That is a national statistic, and it is still true. What that means is this: are women more susceptible? Yes, I think so, because it has a lot to do with rape culture and misogynism in our country, and unhealthy or toxic masculinity in our country that puts women just by default in a position of inferiority. Now, that system exists on a large grand scheme. Howard University is a microcosm component or unit within that entire scope of misogynistic values and beliefs. So sexual assaults do happen on our campus. Sexual assaults do happen to graduate students that attend Howard University. But again, it is because we find situations where folks are in relationships with people and they have taken advantage of the trust and the intimacy that was created in the relationship, and now they want more control in the relationship, and then a sexual assault occurs because we're not talking about consent. So consent is when a person clearly and decisively gives voluntary permission to engage in a specific sexual act without fear or reprisal results of threats. Okay, so what we like to say at Howard University is the enthusiastic yes. In the enthusiastic yes, it sounds very immature and childish, but what I like about it is students laugh about it, graduate students laugh about it, of course, but that means to me that you're having a conversation about it. So when we say enthusiastic yes, that means you have sat down with your partner or someone that you want to engage in a sexual act with, and you've said, I want to have sex with you right here, right now. And so now I'm sure you're probably laughing and like, okay, this is absurd. Why does Howard University have me listen to this woman? This is ridiculous and offensive. I apologize if you're finding it offensive, but what I want you to hear me say that consent is a conversation. It's not just a yes or no. Consent has to happen ongoingly. So someone should engage in a conversation with someone before they have sex, during the sexual encounter, and even after the sexual encounter. There should be a conversation where 2 people say, okay, well, that was okay when we did that. I didn't really like that. I would like to have sex with you again, but I would really prefer that we not do X, Y, and Z. That kind of conversation needs to happen ongoing, because you can withdraw consent. Anyone can withdraw consent at any time. So if a person is starting to have sex and they decide, you know what, I don't think this is okay, I'm not really comfortable, or this is just not something that I want to do right now, and the person pushes the person off or says, you know what, this is not okay, and this is not what I want to do, the other person is required, honestly, to oblige and say, okay, you know what, I'm sorry, I'm backing off, we don't have to move any further. Consent is a conversation where people engage in a conversation about sex and the kind of acts that they would like to do. And if you feel like you cannot engage in a conversation with your partner about sex because you feel like your partner is going to make you feel judged, going to make you feel insecure, you're going to feel threatened, you feel like the relationship might be over, then there's something wrong with that relationship, because you want to be able to have a conversation about sex with your partners. If the person is a minor, he or she cannot engage in consent. So in the District of Columbia, where Howard University resides, anyone under the age of 18 cannot consent to have sex, okay? The first bullet, if a person is under the influence of any substance, alcohol or drugs, he or she, they cannot consent to have sex. So our policy by default says, if you have been using or drinking alcohol at the bar and the 2 of you go back to your home to have sex, technically by Howard's policy, you guys are not in a position to give or receive consent. Now you're probably saying, you know, you're 23, 24, 25 years old or more, and you know how to handle your alcohol and you go to happy hours all the time and you like to drink alcohol and have sex. That is totally fine. All I'm saying to you is the Howard policy indicates that Howard University students cannot provide consent if they are under the influence of any substance. So if you are trying to have sex with another student, then I would just strongly encourage you to drink after you've had sex, or not drink at all, or use any kind of drugs while you're engaged or before you engage in the act. Just because a person consented to a sexual act does not mean that they have given permission to engage in future acts. So that's what I mean by having the conversation. So while the two of you are having sex, you have to provide consent in an ongoing way. I encourage students to check in. You're having sex with someone, you say, are you okay? Are you good? Are you enjoying yourself? Like, are you okay to keep going? Something, the conversation needs to take place. Or it can even be the other person, I really like that I'm having sex with you, or this is okay. Whatever you would like to say, just have a conversation with someone to make sure that each part of the process that the person has provided consent. I like to tell students, if the person you're having sex with does not respond, if they are quiet, I even say, I don't care if it's you just hear like a moan or a groaning kind of thing. Nope, there needs to be words spoken. If the person is quiet and not saying anything, that gets to my last point, that is a mixed message, because you don't know if silence is a yes or a no. So I would strongly encourage you to stop engaging in the act and wait for a response. If the person is not able to give you a response, then the encounter should stop altogether. Stalking is a course of conduct directed at a specific person that would cause a reasonable person to feel fear. It's been found that 13% of college women have experienced stalking in the first 7 months of their academic year. 80% of stalking incidents on a college campus go unreported. 3 out of 4 victims of stalking know who the stalker is. So this is the umbrella expectation, or the umbrella foundation of domestic dating violence, stalking, and sexual assault. If you remember nothing else I've said so far, remember 2 things. Dating, domestic violence, stalking, and sexual assault is rooted in one person wanting to have more power and control in the relationship than the other. That's one. The other point of this is that you know who the person is. It is not, again, a stranger, someone that you've never met. It could be someone that you've met for the first time. It will always, very often, be someone that you know. Now, when you look at this list of common examples of stalking, when you look at, for example, sending gifts, you might think, okay, that's not harmful. That doesn't really mean anything. Of course it might not. Most people like gifts, but what if you are friends or in a relationship with someone who doesn't like gifts? Some of you have probably heard the research on the 5 love languages. And I always like to say there is one love language called acts of service. And then there's another one called, I think it is called gifts. If the person that you are in a relationship with, if they receive love language as an act of service, that means they want you to do something for them. If you pick them up after work, if you do the laundry, if you take the dishes out of the dishwasher so when they come home, they can fill it up. So there are things that you're doing for someone. You get their car washed, whatever the case may be. Those are acts of service. A person that likes acts of service might not like gifts. They might not like roses and earrings and bracelets and necklaces and all those kind of things. They might not like that. If a person tells you, hey, I appreciate the card you left, I appreciate the flowers that you left for me at school, but that's not something that I'm really into. I would just really rather that we keep it just as something as we, talking to each other, and I would still go out with you, but I don't want any kind of gifts or cards or anything like that. If you continue to send those gifts, if you continue to leave those messages, those cards, that is considered stalking by Howard's policy. And it's because the person is feeling some sense of fear. Why is it that I've told this person over and over again, don't call me, don't text me, don't send me emails, don't send me messages, don't talk to my friends and ask them about me, don't leave me flowers or boxes of chocolates. I do not want that. And the person continues to do so, that is not okay. That's considered stalking. And stalking can be very harmful. It can be very traumatic because very often survivors don't know when the person is going to engage in the next behavior. So threatening the person, vandalizing personal property, tracking the victim's computer and internet use, sending pictures that were not requested, sending pictures without consent. If you and your partner engage in a sexual act and you guys agreed to videotape the encounter, neither of you consented to pass that video on to your friends. Now, you might have consented to engage in the act and record the act, but no one gave consent to pass it along. That's a conversation that needs to happen. Posting improper messages on social media. Improper messages depends on the person. Again, if you post a message that says, you know, Robert, you really look nice in the blue suit today, I really like it. And Robert doesn't know who you are, doesn't like people to talk about his clothes, or doesn't like people to bring attention to what he wears. And if he says to you, hey, you know, thank you for the compliment, but I would really prefer that you not put something like that about me on social media. The challenge is all of Robert's friends and all of your friends have seen the post, and it looks very positive. You know what, Robert, you did look really nice in that blue suit. Oh, I saw your post to Robert. I think that was a really nice compliment. Well, they don't know that Robert doesn't like it. So you have to engage in conversations with people. And when people give you their boundaries, when they say to you, I don't want you posting messages about me, positive or negative messages, then please honor the request. But when you post messages that they're not okay with, that can be considered stalking. So what I want you to remember is this. All relationships, it doesn't matter what your sexual orientation is, your religious backgrounds, what part of the country or what part of the world you are from, that all of these issues matter, and you want to have a conversation with your partner or anyone that you're learning to engage with, say it's a new person, have a conversation about these issues so you guys can come to some sort of common agreement. The Interpersonal Violence Prevention Office, we are considered the advocacy office, and as you see here, we provide a lot of resources to faculty, staff, and students. We help students, faculty, and staff, honestly, with safety planning. Again, as a graduate student, if you're in an abusive relationship and you need to get out, or say the police were called and they arrested your partner, we can work with you to help get the locks changed on your apartment. We can provide crisis housing, support you in identifying crisis housing. We have been in a position where students have had to leave immediately in the middle of the night, and so we provide access to food and clothing. We definitely connect you to resources at DC Superior Court where you can obtain an emergency protection order. We will go to court with you. We will help you go through the process if you decide you want to file for a civil protection order. We can help you with that. We also can give you access in DC. It's called crime victim compensation. And if you are in an abusive relationship, DC provides a funding source for you to use that you can use for deposit on a new apartment. Maybe there are fees associated with extinguishing a lease, whatever the case may be, or if you lost wages because you couldn't go to work for a couple of days because you had to be moved to a safe place, crime victim compensation will help provide the funding that you would have missed because you were not able to go to work. In the District of Columbia, any citizen of the district can receive a rape exam, or what we call a sexual assault nurse exam. That exam is provided only at Washington Hospital Center. That is a district law. That is not Howard University law. Washington Hospital Center is literally right down the street from Howard Hospital or Howard University. So it's easily accessible, but we will help transport if you need that. We will go with you to the hospital to get the exam. Of course, we will explain the process and help you understand what's about to happen. I will say, in the District of Columbia, if you decide to file, if you decide to have a sexual assault nurse exam, they will hold on to the rape kit for 2 years. So I just want to share that. We just provide general advocacy to students. We help you understand what healthy relationships are, what they look like. Help you understand that conflict does exist in a relationship. And I tell students, if you haven't had a conflict or an argument in your relationship, you're not in a healthy relationship. It doesn't mean you have to argue and raise your voice and throw things. No, that's unhealthy. But it's definitely appropriate for two people to disagree with each other and hopefully be able to sit down and have a conversation about how they're going to resolve the conflict. We help students and faculty instead identify the red flags. Again, if you're second guessing yourself, if you're feeling like somebody's watching you and it's not really sure, but then the person says, no, I was just making sure you're okay. I knew you were going out with your friends, but I thought I would just come and make sure you're okay. There's something a little off about that. We also provide, help you get connected to resources, again, on and off campus. The counseling center, our off-campus housing office is the office that we use to help identify alternative housing. Student services, if you have a documented medical disability, that office can help you get resources on campus, including academic resources. Our student health center, if you don't want a rape exam, but you want to make sure that you don't have a sexually transmitted infection, we can go to the student health center and they can do that kind of testing with you. Department of Public Safety is extremely supportive and helpful. They will help connect students to Metropolitan Police Department to file a report, to meet with an investigator about domestic dating violence, stalking, or sexual assault. So there's a great partnership there. The DC Rape Crisis Center is one of our top partners, if you will, in the community. They provide counseling to men and women who have experienced a sexual assault, very comprehensive services there. Again, the Metropolitan Police Department. And also we have our Title IX office on campus. So our Title IX office, the email address is listed here. Title IX office is responsible for receiving reports and initiating investigations of violations of Title IX, which include domestic dating, violence, stalking, and sexual assault and sexual harassment. So if you would like to file a report, if you've been violated on, once you come to campus, or even again as a graduate student off campus and you're violated by another student, or honestly, I should say someone else, Title IX will direct you to the proper authorities in the community. But specifically, if you are violated by another student, you have the right to make a report to the Title IX office and discuss with them the options of initiating an investigation or receiving alternative measures, meaning having a conversation with the person, possibly if they violated you, that's under certain circumstances. So Title IX provides a lot of different resources that are available to you as students. These other resources, we have already summarized those. And that is the end of my presentation. I want to welcome you to Howard University. I can give you my telephone number if you need anything or need any resources. It's 202-836-1401. I'm going to go back to the first page. That's the telephone number there. Also, feel free to get in touch with Ms. Triplin or Ms. Alvita to get my email or just any contact information. We are in the Health Science Library on the second floor. You're probably not going to remember that until you get here, but just ask someone and we'll be there to help you. Thank you so much for your time.